Welcome everyone. So today we're going to be talking about this LTI tool that's currently in the testing phase at a couple of our colleges and hopefully moving toward the testing phase at a couple of other CUNY colleges. And this tool is all about placing highly tailored, library curated content right into the Blackboard courses. And you know that librarians work with classroom faculty all the time. We provide materials for their students and their assignments. We consult with them on research assignment design, and we go into the core classes and we teach research skills to students who are going to be working on research projects. But we can't be everywhere. This is particularly a factor in online teaching, and also for those students who, as we all know, the students who most need help are least likely to ask for it. So this is a delivery system that we're talking about.
So we're going to be using a lot of library jargon for the next 20 minutes, and we're going to try and keep it to a minimum, but we also thought it would be helpful to sort of define the terms that we're going to be talking about. So first off is Springshare. Springshare is a vendor, a software as a service vendor, that provides platforms for libraries. They're pretty much 100% for libraries, and they provide a ton of very useful tools that a lot of libraries have adopted, including the CUNY libraries. So they were started in 2007 with a product that librarians, that's called LibGuides, and we will refer to them as LibGuides or research guides, or these, other phrases. But the LibGuides are it's a platform for librarians to create web pages that help students access library resources and other excellent research tools, and hopefully sort of provide like a tailored research experience for those students. We'll kind of talk about what that means a little bit more. So 2007 was when Springshare launched with that LibGuides product, but since then they have added a whole suite of tools that a lot of CUNY libraries use, including an electronic reserves system, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, a calendar system, a classroom or a study room booking tool, online quizzes and tutorials that librarians can use and provide to their students, lots of stuff. Okay, so we're going to see some of them today and talk about how they can be incorporated into Blackboard through this LTI tool. So as I said, LibGuides are these websites that librarians create. They're very easy for us to create, quickly present content that's tailored perhaps to a specific course section. Sometimes we'll work with a faculty member, we'll teach a class, we'll design this web page just for that class assignment. Often we will design a LibGuide for a discipline, so social work LibGuide, and librarians will use it to help students in the reference desk, but students are also encouraged to use them to do research. So that's LibGuides. E-Reserves, as I mentioned before, is an electronic reserve system that Springshare provides that allows faculty and librarians to provide course readings to their students with all copyright clearance considered. So usually the course readings are under password, and this is a copyright compliant way to provide those course readings electronically to students. So the LTI tool comes in allowing faculty and librarians to make this content available to students right where they are. So right there in the Blackboard course shell. The idea is to provide the most relevant information to students when they need it and where they're actually doing their work. It works. It's fairly complicated, and I suspect that many of you have experience with these kinds of LTI tools. It's fairly complicated, but it's very customizable as well. So there are two ways that you can plug a library content into Blackboard. You can do it manually, and that would mean the professor, the instructor, course designer actually going into the system, selecting the LibGuides content or the E-Reserves content that they want to include in their course, and then putting it wherever they want it to go in their course. So that's the manual option, and we're going to kind of show you how that works, talk a little bit more about it. And then there is this auto magic option, which uses metadata to match the content in the LibGuides and eReserves and Springshare systems to appropriate Blackboard courses. It's a fairly complicated way that matching happens, but the idea is to try to get the most appropriate Springshare content, LibGuides content, into the courses as possible. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too.
So I'm going to show you a little bit about the manual mode. Okay, so here is the instructor view in the back end of the course. And what I've done is I have embedded some content here. I've embedded an entire LibGuide, a page of a LibGuide, and a box of LibGuides content. And I just want to show you what that looks like. We're not going to spend a lot of time in the testing environment because it's very, 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 very slow, as some of you may know. But just to give you a sense. So once the student clicks through, they can see this full guide, our Hostos About the Library guide. And you can see that there are different pages in the guide. And then each page has various kinds of content in it. And this is totally, totally customized. Now I'm going to pop back in here to our presentation. And I want to show you what it looks like when the instructor or the course designer is embedding it. So here we are again in the back view. I know it's a little bit small, but I think you get a sense, especially if you've ever seen the back end of Blackboard. So, boy, this is horrible. In the tools menu, if you could read this, it would say Hostos, what does it say? Hostos Library, I was going to read it off the screen. Hostos Library Content. And I decided what that label would be because I thought about my faculty and I wanted to name it something they would recognize. So Hostos Library Content right there. The first thing they do is they go in and they name the content. So I'm going to embed the Research 101 guide. So I've typed in Research 101. I've typed in a description, which I will read to you. Find answers to all your questions about using library resources for your research project! Exclamation point. Next step is I choose a LibGuides site, and Hostos only has one LibGuides site, so that is what I chose. There's a series of 4 options here. First is site. The second is, do I want a full guide, a page, or a box? And I wanted the full guide, so that's what I selected. Then I select the guide, and it presents me all of the Hostos guides. I selected Research 101. The final choice is you can designate a particular page of that guide to be the landing page. And I decided I wanted it to open on the home page. So that's, I just left it blank. So there it is at the bottom of my list on this page. And then the student goes through and they see our Research 101 guide. Now, automagic. Apparently there was a dishwasher back in the 50s that was labeled automagic. This is the mode that moves the most relevant content into the course. It looks at the metadata in the LibGuide system, and first it looks for metadata that matches the section of the course, and then the course itself, and then the discipline. And if it doesn't find a guide for the section, the course, or the discipline, it gives you a default guide that I have designated in the system. So here's what it looks like from the student's point of view. It appears in their tool navigation here, and this one is called Library Research Help, which I decided what that should be called. So a student clicks on that, and they are eventually taken to this lovely guide, which is about nutrition and health for this particular class, HLT 110. If I had not put any metadata for that section or that course into my LibGuides content, I would have gotten the default guide, which is our Research 101 guide. So that's how the stepped matching works. So AutoMagic has actually 2 options within it.
So it has the option Linda just talked about, which tries to match a class with an appropriate libguide. So that one of those research guides that librarians create. But you can also opt to have AutoMagic create a library page. Okay? And it's a little bit different, but basically what it's doing is it's taking elements from the Springshare system, from the whole suite of tools that a library might have available to them. And it's plugging those elements like widgets into a page. So on this page, again, it's very difficult to read, but the very first, there's a link right here that says Art and Art History. That's a link to the Art and Art History Research Guide. The second one says E-Reserves for an art class. I can't read the section name, but that is going to bring them into our Lehman E-Reserves content for that course. The third thing says A to Z database list for art and art history. That is what it sounds like. It's the most relevant databases that Lehman has available for art research. And then over here in the right-hand corner, Lehman subscribes to the calendar, the Springshare calendar system. So it has pulled in the library's open hours for the day and a couple of other calendars that we use as well and presented them there. And then we, in our Springshare system, have assigned expert librarians to various disciplines. So I'm the Art and Art History liaison, so they've plugged a picture of me and my name. Click on that, you can get my contact info. So the way that this library page option works for students, just like what Linda just showed you, the student would log in, and this is a student preview mode. They would log in, and they would have a link in their left-hand menu. I made it Leonard Leaf Library. They click on that link and click launch. Eventually, they're brought to this library page. And if they click on the Art and Art History link at the top, this is our research guide for art and art history. It's like a little hard to get a sense of what these guides have in them because it's so hard to read. But it's got information on finding books, finding articles, finding newspapers, reviews, that kind of thing. So they would be brought right into this guide. If they click the E-Reserves link, the second one, that is a list of the readings for that class. They would just click on it, probably enter a password, which is usually a pretty simple process, and then they'll get their reading right there on Blackboard. If they click on the A to Z list, they'll be brought to that alphabetical list of art databases to do their research with.
Okay, so setting up and testing these tools is fairly straightforward, but it does involve a number of different individuals. Each campus has a LibGuides admin who is probably a librarian. This is already going on at your campus, not integrated into Blackboard, but pretty much most campuses of CUNY use LibGuides. So there's already this content out there. There's already someone designated in your library to be the admin for that system. It also usually involves the Blackboard admin at your campus. I worked with the Blackboard admin at my campus, for example. He helped me see the ins and outs of the back end of Blackboard, which I wasn't necessarily familiar with. And he also set up the test courses for me and enrolled me in those courses so that I could do the testing. And it also involves one individual, Profins Belson, who is the Blackboard administrator for CUNY Central. So there are various steps. So the LibGuides admin sets up the setup options in the Springshare backend, sends to Prof at CUNY Central these particular pieces of data that are provided in the Springshare backend so that he can connect our Blackboard with our Springshare system. I send Prof the label text for what I want the faculty to see in that drop-down box. OSTO's library content was what I decided. There's a testing phase, and then there's working with faculty to train them, to make them aware of this option and of the value of this material for their students, and help them learn how to place the content into the courses. AutoMagic has just a few extra steps. So here in the middle, in the Springshare backend, the LibGuides admin is going to add metadata from the course ID field in Blackboard into the LibGuides and E-Reserves and other content on that backend. And then once you get through the testing phase, there's two different things that might happen. First, this is what you saw in my demo. Adding the LTI tool link to the Student Tools menu in the campus template, so it appears automatically in that left-hand column. Not every campus of CUNY uses a template in Blackboard. If your campus uses a template for Blackboard, you'll be able to have this automatically appear in your students' navigation. If you don't use a template for Blackboard at your campus, you will have to work with faculty and course designers to add the LTI tool into that tools menu for students manually. It'll have to be an opt-in system in that case.
And then to use that library page that I showed you a minute ago, it's pretty much the same process that Linda just showed you with a little bit of extra work. So when your LibGuides admin, there are a lot of admins involved. When your LibGuides admin is setting up the LTI tool builder, they'll do a few extra steps and do this additional page builder. Okay? And then when your LibGuides admin is adding metadata to the system, they will do the extra step of adding metadata to a subject. And if you're a LibGuides admin, I can explain more about what that means, but it's actually a fairly small thing to do.
So launching, it sounds more complicated than it is. When I actually got to the testing phase, I was very pleased with how straightforward it was. So there's the testing, there's the going live right now here at Ostos. We are in the process of working with the CUNY Blackboard Building Blocks Committee to get that finally pushed through, and we hope that we will have the Automagic in place for our fall template. And then there's the building awareness, training those faculty and the course instructors, and letting everyone know on campus, all the campus stakeholders know about the value of having this highly tailored, library curated content in those courses. I'm going to ask if there are any questions now. Yeah.
I want to think about that value that everyone sees in having the content right there for their students, and kind of maybe when you were looking at this overall, what are some key indicators that this is a successful service that you have?
That's a great question. We haven't actually thought specifically about how we might assess the success, but we did begin in the beginning a group of librarians from, I want to say, so there's 24 campuses. I want to say maybe 16 of those campuses sent representatives to the meeting, and we did talk about the value of this and what we wanted to get out of it and why we thought it was valuable. And it had to do with really customizing that content. It had to do with reaching those students who need the help but won't come forward and ask about it. And just getting the most relevant information right where the students are when they need it. I know that's a general statement, and we will have to set up certain indicators that will measure and see if we're living up to those ideals. I know I'm talking like an evangelist here.
Well, I can speak anecdotally to that, I suppose, as well. Because we have, I do some co-teaching with our Health and Human Services librarian, and often talk about, I'm the Instructional Technologies librarian at Lehman. So I'm often talking about LibGuides with librarians there. And I think the Health and Human Services librarian, our education librarian, our business librarian, they will very often work very closely with a faculty member to build a research guide or LibGuide for a specific assignment. And some of these assignments can be very, very research heavy. So there's a health class that does a lot of New York City data research, where the tools are not necessarily, oh yeah, this is a slideshow of some of the
We were going to show this before we started, but this is just some of the LibGuides content at CUNY.
Yeah. So a research guide might walk students through how to use the US Census website, how to get health data off of New York City websites. And these are actually pretty complicated queries that they have to set up and sites that they may not be aware of. Our Health and Human Services librarian will teach an hour and 40-minute class on how to do it. The students will go back home, and we will see them 2 weeks later at the reference desk saying, I had a class on this. don't remember. And I'll say to them, she made a whole website for you. Like an entire website. She spent hours on it. And they'll be like, yeah, where is it again? So anecdotally, I can say that I think that having, especially that kind of really tailored content right there in Blackboard where they're going every day could be really helpful. Yeah. Other questions?
Okay, so we do have an online guide that has full documentation of this. So if you think that your LibGuides admin in the library or your Blackboard admin, or just if you have a sense that this would be of value in your campus, as I said, I've been meeting throughout the year with librarians and Blackboard administrators from different campuses. Some people are already moving forward. Some people are in the working to schedule this into their workflow to try and move toward implementation. But we've sort of glossed over the process in our quick presentation, but there's quite a bit of documentation in this LibGuide if you want to take a picture of that URL. That will help them get started. It also has my contact information and Prof's contact information, the guy at CUNY Central. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.